very much, everybody, for joining us. This is Steve and Bonnie Vincent here from Rediscover Yourself, and we are energy sound therapists that help people navigate through a lot of difficult turmoil in their lives as far as emotional issues go. So,
and it's a very natural, safe, non-invasive way to be able to release negative emotions that your body has trapped because of trauma, different things that have happened to you, anywhere from anxiety to depression, anger, fear, worry, sorrow, grief, sadness. There's hundreds of emotions that can affect us negatively, and we can help you clear these negative emotions quickly and in most cases permanently. So that's a little bit about us. You want to?
Today we are here with Renee Natzke, and she's going to talk about choosing to heal after a loss. Renee is a public speaker. She is working on a book, so she's soon to be an author, which is fantastic. And she has been through this process, so she's helped a lot of people navigate this turbulent situation here. And Renee, if you want to chime in and tell us a little bit about you and kind of what we're going to talk about today.
Sure. So again, my name is Renee Natzke. I live in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And I'm here today really to talk about choosing to heal after loss. My experience is from child loss, and I will tell you a little bit about my story in a few minutes. But what I really want to talk about today is 3 points, I guess. One of those is when you are new to loss, death, or grief, I understand fully that the word healing is not on the top of your mind. It just is not. So that is okay if that's where you are. The second thing I want to talk about is that there are ways of self-care practices, maybe spiritual practices, and ways that you can honor your loved one through this journey that you're on. And it can also be healing. And the third thing I want to talk about is really when you're looking for something else to help you with your healing, and you're open to do that, there are ways, such as Bonnie and Steve, to help you kind of release some of that deep, dark pain that you may have. So a little bit about our story. So my life was going as expected about 5 years ago, and I'm happily married. We have 2 children, Ella, who was 8 at the time, and Jack was 5. And we were a very close-knit family. We took a lot of vacations together. We just were the family of 4 that was like inseparable. It was so great. And Jack and Ella were best of friends. They did everything together. And about 2 weeks into kindergarten, Jack became sick. And we didn't really know what it was. We did take him to, it was kind of like flu-like symptoms. The next day we took him to the hospital, and within 4 days, he was brain dead. And after 6 days, we took him off life support. And it was a shock, of course, to our system, for our whole family, especially when he was a healthy little boy with no health concerns. And for him to be suddenly sick and die in a matter of a few days, obviously is very traumatic. As you can imagine, those first days and weeks and months after that, we felt, and I even told my husband many times, that we will be sad for the rest of our lives. And that we will have to carry this burden with us and this sorrow forever, because there's no other option. And that's where I really want to speak into people who are very new to grief, new to a loss, whether it's sudden or not. If death and the void that your person has left that is no longer here, that you have this void in your life, is what consumes you right now because it's so raw and real, that is okay. And I think when it's so sudden and so such an early stage, and that could be like the first year even. I mean, it could be even beyond that, because we know grief has no timetable, healing has no timetable. And I think a lot of times I needed someone to tell me that it was okay for how I felt, because oftentimes I felt crazy, and it was important to know that I wasn't. And society as a whole does not do well with grief in general. There's a lot of people that want you to get better quickly. They want you to believe that, you know, you should be happy because your loved one wants you to be happy, when that's like so not what you're feeling, because you are just like dead inside and you long to be with that person that is no longer here. And by following the advice of others who have never been on that journey before, you're like not doing what proper healing is. Shoving those emotions down is not really what healing is about. And getting those emotions out of you is the best thing for your healing journey. So I would say that, you know, it's important, if you're early on in this process of grief, I would highly suggest to take care of yourself first. I know if, like, we had a daughter, so we had to obviously keep her best interests at hand while we were on this journey ourselves. But taking care of yourself is so important, and giving yourself grace. I know I often had to ask for help just to keep going. And that's help from just others who would be willing to help. If someone asked me if they could do something for me, I would try to allow them to, because there's such a sense of overwhelm when you have dealt with such a traumatic loss that you do need others to help you out. Surviving, I think the first couple years was all about survival mode. And for your greatest interest is just to keep surviving and to keep on the path. Another thing that I did, and I suggest to others, is to keep your eyes open to hope and to light. Because after the darkness, there is some sort of light. And you may not believe that at the time, but I personally would look for people who maybe had the same circumstances I did or similar, and try to see how they were doing it, or just their example that they were still continuing their life. And that was a guide for me to show me that healing was possible. Which kind of leads into the second thing I want to talk about today, about finding things that you can do to heal. Self-care was a huge thing that was talked about after Jack died. And to myself, self-care to me was like eating right and exercising and going for walks and doing things that I didn't even care to do, because I felt so dead inside. And those things that may be simple to other people, of doing those things, getting enough sleep and all that stuff, was just like out the window. Like I didn't care, that was not important to me. But there were things that I did do that I felt were my self-care practice. And one of those was journaling. And that's getting your feelings out onto paper. Another thing was listening to Christian music. We have a very strong faith, and it was easy for me to listen to music that resonated with my soul, and that I could feel that emotion of the music, and cry if I needed to, or just praise God, whatever it was something that was also a self-care practice for me. I connected a lot with other parents or other people that have had great loss in their life. And I think that's important to people. If you have a friend maybe that you can connect with, someone else to listen to you is super important. I think sharing things, I shared a lot on social media. We have a page, a public page that's called Jack Strong, honoring Jack Natzke. And that's where I really shared a lot of my soul, the pain, the signs that we would get, just how the journey flowed, the valleys and the mountain peaks that I would be feeling, I shared on that page. And I think it's super important for people who are going through this to really be able to be seen and be heard. And you might not feel like you want to share your story, but if you would even find one friend to just listen to either your story or listen to you talk about your loved one, it's all part of the healing process. And I think for the person on the other side, if you have never dealt with loss or grief in such a way that maybe your friend has or a family member, I think it's really important for you to understand that it's not so much about having an answer or being able to respond to them in some way. It's to be the ear to listen to what they have to say. And I hope that people can take that with them too, because I think that's very important, where people try to fix us, and that's not possible. Allowing yourself to cry, I think, is so important too, just that release of emotion that can get, there's been many times in my healing journey where I would be at a phase in my life where I didn't cry for a while, and then when it's just bubbling up inside and you have to cry. And you have to just release that emotion. So I think healing is a lot of feeling what you feel, but then also releasing it. Let's see. I think that all these actions that people take, or if you're willing to take them, they all have some sort of healing, these little steps that you take along the way. And I think sometimes you don't even know that you are healing until you can look back. So I have a couple examples of just going through this healing process. And I had Jack's blanket that he had throughout his life. He was 5 years old when he died. And his little blanket I slept with every night. And it was probably about 1.5 years, I think, that I had left the blanket in a suitcase when I had traveled, and I had not taken it back out of the suitcase to sleep with me that night. And it was like the next day or the following day that I actually realized that I didn't have it with me. And what did I tell myself? That I'm healing. Because in that moment, I did not need that blanket. And I realized that I wasn't attached to it like I had been in previous times. The other thing happened where I know for those who have lost loved ones, you always remember the date that they died. The 15th was for us, September 15th. And every 15th of the month, I would feel and honor the fact that it was the 15th. But after probably about 24 months, 25 months, which may seem like a long time, but for someone who's in grief, that's not. And I remember it became the 15th of the month, and I completely forgot that it was the 15th, and that associated with Jack. And it was a friend who had texted me every 15th of the month that was the one that reminded me that it was the 15th. And again, after that, I said to myself, I must be healing. So don't neglect the fact that you may have things that happen in your life where you maybe don't think you're healing, but you can look back and say, oh, maybe I am. And then the third thing that I want to talk about is that grief is a very lonely journey. And sometimes we need other people to help us. And I think in order to heal, you need a group of people to surround you and help you. And so when I hit a bad time in my life twice in the last 5 years, where I actually like pretty much raised my hand and said, I'm desperate for help because I can't do this alone. I found people to help me. I have, the whole time I was kind of relying on myself to get through everything, and my faith in God. And God created other ways for us to heal. And it was in 2016, so it was about 1 year after Jack died, that I had gone to a chiropractor, Matt Herber, in Green Bay to get help, because I knew that with trauma and what I had gone through, my whole central nervous system was out of whack. Pretty much everything of me was out of whack. And I went there out of desperation. And within 2 minutes of me sharing what I had been through in the last month, he left the room where we were. He came back and he brought me the pamphlet for Rediscover Yourself and told me to call Bonnie and Steve. And I did right away. And they got me in right away, days later. And I had no idea what they did. But of course, I was desperate for any kind of help, anything to make me feel a little bit better. And I remember the very first appointment, and I was asked, like, what's the worst thought that you have, or the hardest thing that you are dealing with right now? And my answer, because it was the hardest thing, was that it was going to be decades, possibly, before I saw my son again. And that's the thing that tore me up the most. And I would cry all the time because of that thought. And I surrendered to the process. And Bonnie and Steve helped me with that thought. And I'm not the professional, they are. So I can't tell you exactly all what happened at that time. But when I left there, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. And I felt that when that thought came to me again, the next day or a week or a month or even 2 weeks ago, it does not cause me to have that deep, dark despair that I had in that sorrow. And it no longer made me cry, that specific thing. And so I saw Bonnie and Steve for quite some time after that. Whenever something, obviously there's lots of emotions that are connected with grief. And I saw them for so many of them throughout the next year. And another one that really comes to mind was I went in there not knowing what was going on inside of me, but I was like this pinball. My mind was going all over the place. And all I could tell them was that I feel like everyone, when they see me sad, they're hoping that I would just move on. And when they see me happy, I think that people are thinking, oh, thank God she's over it. And it was like this feeling inside of me that I had no idea what it was, but it was creating this panic inside of me and anxiety that I was so concerned about what other people thought, when it may not have even been what they thought. It was just what my mind was telling me. And they released that for me. And it was like such a weight again lifted off my shoulders.
We are so grateful to be part of your journey, Renee. I know that is so difficult to go through something like that. And Steve knows as probably more so than I do. And it is hard. And we have to learn how to cope.
Mm-hmm.
Correct? And be
Yes.
able to move forward in life. And you are such an inspiration to many people out there that maybe have lost hope and don't feel like they can move forward in life. I think you're going to be just a great mentor, a great guide for people to be able to live here and be happy and know that they can be. You know, that's a big thing too, is that, you know, you can be happy. You know, you don't have to be sad all the time. You're going to have your moments, but you can be happy, and you have to move forward because that's what they would want too.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
But as you're going through this journey, and every one of us is different, like you said, Renee, it can take months, it can take years to be able to move forward and start that healing process. Because a lot of times we are stuck in that time of grief and that time of trying to sort things out and trying to make sense of what had happened. I experienced a similar loss, so I was able to relate. Now, everybody is different, so there's no cookie cutter pattern here when somebody loses somebody. I lost my son when he was 8 years old, which you know my story as well. But it helped me relate to you, I think, on a much more deeper level,
Mm-hmm.
being that, okay, I've somewhat walked in your shoes, in a similar set of shoes anyway. And we have to understand that everybody is different. And what takes one person, you know, it took you how long before you stopped sleeping with Jack's blanket? 1.5 years, and someone else, it may only take a year. But that doesn't mean that you can just pick up the pieces and move forward now that you're,
Right.
it's not something that we ever get over. It's something that we find ways to get through. So that's an important thing to realize, is when something like this happens, you are always going to have that hole in your heart. There's going to be a hole there that unfortunately will probably never be filled, because that person meant so much to you, and this loss is so significant that you know, we all have to go through this grieving process. We're able to help with a lot of different things, and I wish I could say we could take all the pain away. Nobody can.
Right.
Nobody can. So you have to understand that this is a process, it's a journey, and you really have to make that choice, like you said, choose to move forward and choose to start that healing before anything's going to happen. And if you don't make that choice, you're going to be stuck in this bad place for a heck of a long time, and you don't want to be there.
And we are definitely here to help you as well. Do as much as we can on our end with the emotional sound healing. And Renee, what are some of the things that you hope to do to be able to help others, and how can they reach you?
Yeah, so I'm looking to, well, first of all, you can reach me at Renee@ReneeNatzke.com. And then I do have a website, which is ReneeNatzke.com. I think we're going to drop it in the link or something after. And we'll drop my phone number down there too. I am currently writing the book that I have been in process of doing. And that again is an emotional roller coaster, right? Going back to the very beginning and explaining all the stuff that has happened in all the different ways that I found, to help me heal. And so I am working on that right now. And then I'm also looking to create a couple different groups of, it was very important for me when I first started. I did do a couple online groups, and fitting for the times right now that I'm looking to start a group for specifically bereaved moms. But if you go onto my website, you can enter your email there. You do get a download of, it's like 11 things that I wish I would have known about loss. And then you will be in the, in my email list. I don't send out a lot of emails, so you don't have to worry about that. But you are, you would know about those groups coming up as well. And as well, the Jack Strong page that we have is available to reach me as well. So
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Renee.
Thank you very much for taking your time and joining us and sharing this story, because it's a difficult thing to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I really do appreciate your time, and I'm very happy to see that you're getting stronger and stronger every day.
Yep.
And that's what it is. It's a journey, and it's a process, and nothing happens overnight. And in fact, this is going to be something that'll probably take us the rest of our lives to continue to deal with this. But
and healing is hard. Healing is really hard work. You can easily take the easy way out and not do it at all, right? And turn to other things that are not healthy for you.
Yes.
But doing that healing is actually the hard work, and it's just, taking little steps, and it's also, taking 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back, right? And then continuing that, and just, 1 foot in front of the other is really, what has created this for me and where I am, because I've been open to the possibility to heal. And I just hope that that is others' wishes as well, but in their time. Like you said, it's everybody has a different time. Grief and healing is not linear. It is circular, and it goes up and down and all over the place. So yes, definitely.
Well, thank you so much, Renee, for telling us your story and your journey, and we look forward to hearing more from you.
We will. We'll have you back on again. We'll talk more about this after you publish your book. I'd love to have you back on. And, let us, we'll talk a lot more about this. But if anyone wants any information, again, we're going to post all the information on where you can contact us at, where you can get a hold of Renee at. And if there's anything we can do to help you out, please reach out to us. And thank you very much, everybody, for joining. Thank you for your time today.
Bye, Renee.
Bye, thank you.